Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Michael Hall
Hey.
and Michael Reed.
Hey.
So, Mike Hall took your bit there, Reed.
I know he did. He surprised me there.
Bit stealing season.
It's like watching our son grow up right before our eyes. He's just getting funnier and funnier week by week,
That's you guys are my boys. Those are my sons.
Hey, welcome back to the Burgundy Zone, everybody. We're glad to be back and talking some football with you guys. And today we have a couple things on the agenda. It's going to be kind of a fun episode for us. The first thing, Jason Lockenfora had a couple of questionable things he said about Haskins on his latest interview with Chad Dukes on Friday on 106.7. And then we're going to go in our top 5 sports movies, our favorites. I'm sure that if you guys want to afterwards on Twitter, Facebook, in the YouTube comments, if you want to shoot us what you think the top 5 sports movies are, we'd be happy to hear them. And then we'll finish off with a couple rumors circulating around Redskins and just latest and greatest news and just talking Redskins bits. But first, Jason Lockenfora on Friday, I'm not sure if you guys were able to hear this, but he was on with Chad Dukes, and Chad Dukes basically asked him, with the shortened off season, with the quarantine going down, with learning this being his third offense in 3 years, does he think that Dwayne Haskins has a chance this season? And he said no, literally zero. And he says he doesn't have a chance at all. Mike Hall, I'll go to you first. Do you think Jason Lockenfora is right? And if he's not, why?
Yeah, I don't think he's right at all. I mean, like I said, when we were talking before we started recording. Like, what did the Redskins ever do to Jason Lockenfora? Did they ban his season tickets when he was a little kid? Just one of the players not sign his autograph or something? It's just really weird that at least once a month plus that this man just coming out with these outrageous just takes against the Redskins and just hating on them so hard. Right. But to answer your question, no, I don't think that he's right at all. I mean, everyone that's been around the park and that's been talking to Dwayne, that's been in the Zoom meetings with him while he's with Scott Turner and Scott Tanzizi, Tamzizi, that's his last name, the QB coach?
Yeah, I think so.
Ken Zampese.
Tamzizi, yeah. Tamziz. I can't even talk about
that. Zampese.
Tampees, that's his name, Tampees.
Zampese.
I don't know, whatever.
Dude, the 12th time's a charm, Hall.
Yeah, the QB coach guy. But yeah, everyone's been saying that he's been really just stuck in everything up like a sponge. I was reading this article with JP Finley. He had Dwayne Haskins on his podcast, and Dwayne was pretty much just saying that Alex Smith has been helping him out going back to even last year, and he's just been watching Alex Smith and the way that he's been working back after his whole leg, and he's still the first one there, last one to leave. So he's just been taking on that mentality, and he's pretty much just been saying that he can't wait to become the leader of the Redskins, and yeah, it's just he has a lot of confidence. He trusted in Ron with the whole Tua thing. Ron kept telling him, trust me, trust me, trust me. And that's just built his confidence even more. So, yeah, I just think that Lockenfora is completely wrong. And obviously it's a little bit stacked against him. But I just think that you don't throw 50 touchdowns in the Big Ten in 1 year and you just automatically just not good. So,
right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I think you're right about that. But at the same point, I think Lockenfora is onto something. This is something that we learned with Jason Campbell. Learning 4 straight different offenses can really hamper a quarterback's development. Now, that being said, I think Dwayne Haskins has a chip on his shoulder, and I think he has something to prove, and I do think he is motivated this offseason, so I don't think that is going to be something that will hold him back for very long. I think that he has the organization backing, and I think that he will do well, and I don't think Ron Rivera is coming in here like Jay Gruden did it, unfortunately enough, but basically saying, look, dude, this dude is not good enough. He can't play quarterback, and that's not what Ron is doing. Ron, like you said, Hall, has been confident in him, told him throughout the process, just trust me, and that goes a long way. And I think that Haskins is going to trust Ron. This isn't the same old kind of Redskins park where they burn bridges left and right. Ron Rivera is telling Dwayne Haskins to trust me. If you work hard, this will be your team, and Dwayne Haskins has done that thus far. What about you, Reed?
Yeah, I mean, I of course kind of agree with you guys. I think, especially to piggyback off what Hall said, I think that he's, for as much as people like to talk about the odds kind of being stacked against Haskins, I think that he's also in a position to succeed. He's got Doug Williams in the organization who can kind of help him along the way. Ken Zampese had he helped coach Baker Mayfield to his best season so far in the NFL in 2018. He's a very well-respected quarterbacks coach, and having an offensive coordinator that kind of tailors to your strengths is going to be huge. You saw that towards the end of the year when Kevin O'Connell kind of got comfortable with Dwayne Haskins in the play calling. Dwayne Haskins started to play fantastic towards the end of the year, and I think with another year in offseason, he's picking it up. He wasn't ready to start last year when he was thrown kind of to the wolves with the fire. That was never the plan. And now I think that he is in position to succeed. They're going to surround him with players that can help bring out the best in him. They've got a good mixture of wide receivers. I know everybody likes to talk about how the wide receiving core isn't that good, but I think it's got a good mixture of guys that can really help out. And I think that Dwayne Haskins can definitely succeed. I think that he will. He has a chip on his shoulder as well. And you just threw me off there, Linz.
Sorry. But one thing I wanted to say, in Madden, I know it's not the same, it's not real life, whatever have you. But in Madden, what happens for anybody that doesn't play Madden or is not familiar with it, when you pick an offensive game plan in Madden, what it does for your roster is it tells you the type of players at each position that fits for that offense. And for Ron Rivera's offense, it says deep threat quarterback, a big arm quarterback. It doesn't say field general like Jay Gruden's offense with Andy Dalton. Needs a field general, needs a game manager. Just get the ball to the playmakers. In Ron's offense and Scott Turner's offense, it needs a cannon arm for a quarterback. It needs a deep threat quarterback, which is exactly what Dwayne brings to the table. Their offense is not asking Dwayne Haskins to break down multiple reads at a time. What he's going to be able to do is Dak Prescott this offense. Go off play action. Go off easy routes. They're not going to be asking him for too much because of what's going to happen up front. They're going to control in the trenches, and they're going to make everything a lot easier for Dwayne. That's why I think it's going to be an easy transition because they're coming in here with the right plan, knowing what to do, and like you said, Reed, catering to his strengths.
Right. And another thing, having somebody like Kyle Allen who knows the offense, who knows it well from spending last year in Carolina under Turner, I think that that's going to benefit Dwayne. He can help guide him along. And then having a strong running game, having a good plethora of running backs. Strong running game is a young quarterback's best friend, as well as a strong defense. We seem to have both of those things. So I think that everybody wants to talk about Dwayne being in a terrible position, and this COVID thing is going to hold him back. But I think if you really look at it, of course, I'm a glass half full kind of guy.
Yeah.
So I think that he is going to be set up to do well, and this will be a make or break year.
Yeah, just piggybacking off the run game thing. If you go back to his game tape and everything he did at Ohio State, it was a lot of the run game with J.K. Dobbins and those guys, and a lot of the quick passing game with slot receivers and stuff like that, which opened up the downfield passing game. And I think that, like you said, they're going to mold the offense around him, and the QB coach is going to kind of tailor what he does well, and they'll proceed from there. Now, like I said, things are stacked against him, but just piggybacking what you guys said, he has a chip on his shoulder, and I just think that at the end of the day, like you said, everyone believes in him, and if he starts believing in himself, anything's possible.
Yeah, and but that wasn't the biggest thing that I took away from Jason LaCanfora's interview with Chad Dukes. My biggest thing that actually pissed me off was that he said Dwayne Haskins has no weapons at all, 0, and that blows my mind because it's sitting here saying, dude, are you for real?
That's why I said he's a hater.
Have you not been paying attention to what the Redskins have been? They've been getting impact players. And look, I understand the consensus around the league that Antonio Gibson is not proven, but that being said, he's still a weapon. He's still somebody that can contribute to the offense right away. And it's not like we're asking him to carry the ball 30 times a game. This dude's going to be straight up a mismatch nightmare on any play at any down, and he's not going to be asked to do that much. I mean, the fact that they're going to sit here and say Terry McLaurin is not going to be able to be a threat, even though that he was the only option in the beginning part of the season last year. That didn't seem to stop anybody.
For him to be in the rookie race for Offensive Player of the Year as a wide receiver just says it all right there.
Right.
And acting like Steven Sims is not that good. It just really blows my mind that there's, as Redskins fans, we're sitting here acting like they did nothing to add weapons to the offense when they did. They went out and got Thaddeus Moss, who you guys wanted. So I don't understand. I don't get it.
Right. Especially like you said, having Terry McLaurin, who is, in my opinion, and according to other outlets, including Pro Football Focus, he's the best second-year wide receiver. And he's played with Dwayne. They have a fantastic connection. They played together in college. They played together their first year in the NFL. They're going to continue to grow. They've got great chemistry. And then you surround them with big tall target like AGG. I know he's a 4th-round pick, but he's somebody who I think could eventually contribute down the road. And then, like you said, adding all those other playmakers like Antonio Gibson, and then you can't forget about Kelvin Harmon, who really came on towards the end of the year, and Steven Sims, who has shown that he has what it takes to be a big play guy, and then of course all the running backs. So I think that Haskins will be in a very good spot, especially with an offensive coordinator who really knows how to utilize his players' talents.
Yeah. I mean, even to say AP's not a weapon.
Right.
That's what he's done the past 2 years for us. Everyone thought he's down and out. Oh, he's going to the Redskins. This is the end of his career. People go to the Redskins to die, and he's been one of the top running backs in the league for the past 2 years. Almost like a rebirth, like a third time to his career, second time to his career. So, yeah, like I said in the beginning, Jason Lockenfor, I don't know what he has against the Redskins. Maybe, I don't know, Dan Snyder didn't say hi to him one time in a press conference. I don't know.
You know what it is.
Yeah, I know. But
what is it, Kyle?
Jason Lockenfor came through 106.7. He worked with 106.7. It's been well documented the animosity and the relationship between 106.7 and the Redskins. Dan Snyder has sued them, multiple lawsuits and stuff like that. Right. So it's just that's the reason why there's such animosity there. Lindsey Zarniak came through not 106.7, but the Junkies is what I mean. Right. Sorry, they came through the Junkies, and so it just kind of shows you the animosity there and kind of explains a little bit the background nationally from Jason Lockenfor. Because remember, he was one of the first ones to come out and say, Trent Williams will never play for the Redskins again. And then 2 weeks later, he was like, well, I didn't really mean that. So it's like, come on, dude. Like, do you really do that for fun? Like, do you just pick him?
And then he turned around and was like, well, I told you guys from the beginning he wasn't going to play with you again. Like, it's just like, come on.
JLC.
It doesn't. Well, the thing is, it's even guys around here. It's either like beat guys around the area that are saying the Redskins didn't get any weapons for Dwayne Haskins. And in free agency, they didn't. They didn't overspend for talent. You're right. They went and did it the right way. When you look at Ron Rivera's teams, have they gone out and got big free agent name wide receivers? No, never. The biggest one they had was Steve Smith, and they let him walk.
Yeah.
They don't go out. They don't go out and get talent. They draft talent.
And then they go out and they draft their guys. They draft DJ Morris. They draft Curtis Samuels. They draft Evan Funchess. They draft guys that they think fits their team, and they don't go out and spend. Now, one thing
I don't think Evan Funchess should be in that group.
No, but he was. There was a year, so Kelvin Benjamin as well. There was a year so where they were good, but it's just what works for them. But I mean, they did try to get Amari Cooper, but I don't know if they were what the real reason behind that was, whether they wanted to maybe raise the price so the Cowboys had to pay more, or whether they honestly felt that he would impact this team that much. But they do have a good set. A lot of people obviously will rate the Redskins skill groups, especially the receivers around and the tight ends towards the bottom of the NFL. But I really think that they can surprise some people. I don't think that they are as bad. They got a good mixture of talent, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the tight end position, especially when you think about the Carolina teams of the past, they like the bigger guys. They're not looking for the matchup nightmares that you would generally expect from the tight end position. When you think about the new age kind of Jordan Reed-esque, they like the bigger framed blockers that can just catch a ball and move the chains. And that's what they have here. So people are expecting that this offense to be like Kansas City or like the Saints. That's not what's happening here. This is going to be Ron Rivera's team. It's not sexy. You're not going to love seeing what you are going to see on offense, but what you're going to see is a very good football team that works within the rules, that works together and goes and kicks ass. And that's the way I see it playing out this year. And the fact that he's just saying they don't have any skill position players at all, I think it's a slap in the face of Terry McLaurin, this team, and I hope they put that in the locker room.
Yeah, I just feel like it's going to be the early years in Carolina when him and Cam first got there, where it was defense, and Cam, just don't screw it up, but use your abilities to the best that you can. And I feel like they're going to be the same thing the first couple of years here. Defense. Dwayne, go out there, kind of manage the game, and when you got the big shots, the big plays, take them. But just don't turn the ball over a lot and let the defense do their thing, win us games. And I definitely think they can be successful off of that. Just based off of with Jay Gruden in 2018 and Alex Smith. Everyone forgets that we were 6-4, a game and a half up in the division in first place. And people were saying that Alex Smith was finally starting to gain control of the offense, was going through progressions, and obviously it's been downhill from there. But we're only maybe a couple players away from being back at that top position again. So, yeah.
Yeah. Before Alex Smith went down, we were definitely a leg up in the division. No, but
Too soon.
Too soon.
talk about the Redskins not adding anybody and still having the same receiver core. And of course, some people can view that as a negative, but I think that could also be viewed as a positive. You know, he has continuity with those receivers. He might not have continuity with the coaching staff at this point, but being able to throw the ball and having good chemistry with your receivers is so important. Really, the only name that they added at receiver is Antonio Gandy Golden. And he's a big 6'4" guy who it's not going to matter if Dwayne Haskins overthrows, you know. But having the continuity, I think, is huge.
I did a film breakdown on Cody Latimer. He does offer a lot to the table. He's not gonna blow you away off the screen. He's not gonna blow you away with speed. But he's the type of wide receiver. The best way I can explain this is you're going to get really good production in any weather situation. Either whether it be snow, rain. He's one of those wide receivers. Just very durable, has sure hands, and he has, I guess, heavy feet is the best way to put it. But he's going to be somebody that Mike Hall and we talked about. He's one of those guys that's part of a wide receiver group on a good team. You know, he gets the fourth, fifth wide receiver targets, and you're like, yeah, that makes sense. And look, I think Cody Latimer was actually a really good pickup because it was cheap and he is young.
Right, and he's a veteran. He's been around some winning teams. He's a solid player. He's got good size to him as well. Real quick, one thing I heard is that Jay Gruden's biggest regret before that final Alex Smith drive was telling him to go out on the field and break a leg. And
Jesus,
I'll show myself out. Bye, guys.
Dude, I mean the odds of that happening. I know that we haven't really talked about the 11. The Alex Smith documentary a lot.
I don't want to watch it. I
know.
want to watch it. I saw the pictures on Twitter, man. I'm too squeamish.
I feel like he got his due diligence and his publicity that he got necessary. You know, I don't want to make it any worse by talking about how horrible it was. Let's just move on, man. I'm so glad to see where he is. And honestly, something I did think to myself when I was watching, because I was watching ESPN, I think either last weekend or this weekend, and they were showing Alex Smith, you know, in his suit on the field. And I could think to myself, I was like, man, you know, I could really get used to seeing Alex Smith being in a Redskins suit, being a part of this front office for years and years to come.
There's a lot of people that think that he is going to eventually, maybe sooner
fits.
rather than later, join the front office. Yeah, he's got a good relationship with Dan Snyder. They became close, especially since the injury. And I think that's something that Alex would have a very good career in.
Yeah, it's like one of those things where, like, you know, like I don't know, I was just thinking that, you know, later on down the road, like having a conversation with your kid, like, oh, is Alex Smith good? Like as a GM or whatever. I'm like, dude, you have no idea. You know, like one of those things, like he broke his leg. He almost died. Yeah. You know, like one of those things. So I just felt like Alex Smith, it just looked like he should be here for a long time. And I hope it does work out because the dude's a winner. I see a lot of Gibbs in him, you know, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, he would definitely be like a Gibbs type of guy where it's like a team first, so not like a big personality, like a leader in the locker room. Joe Gibbs is all about like your faith and stuff like that, and it seems like Alex Smith's kind of like into his faith and everything. So, yeah, I mean, like you said, I hope that he moves into the front office or even joins the coaching staff as some type of offensive assistant and just builds his resume that way. So,
I mean, did you just see his workout video from the other day? He might be coming back and playing.
He wants to. Yeah. I think if he gets a clearance, I do think that no matter what's going on, I think that we should at least let him come on the field and kneel formation and take a knee during a win or something. You know, that would just be such an awesome story. Could you imagine that stadium, assuming that there's fans allowed there, how crazy they would be going to see 11 strut on the field and take a knee?
See, the thing is, I don't think if you're going to do that, I think it has to be the opening snap and it has to be a run play. Because
I'm talking about the final play of the game when you're taking a knee in victory formation.
I know. What I'm saying is I think that, like, because you can't guarantee that there will be fans there to see that and have all like the rah-rah about it. So I feel like, you know, the first play of the game of on offense, being able to run like a dive and him just handing the ball off and running away, I think he should be able to do. So I think like that would make more sense because then that would get everybody so hyped to begin the game. You know, like this one's for Alex.
This is actually a pretty good discussion because they actually had this discussion on Grant and Danny, this little debate. And I guess, I think it was Danny's it was Grant. Grant's kind of side of it was if he's working this hard to come back and like he really has like getting back on the field in his mind, he was like, I don't think that he would kind of go out there for just one kind of like kneel down play or kind of like a hey, look at me, I'm out here for one play type of thing. Like if he's gonna be back on the field and like get cleared to play for like one play, they say he's gonna want to be like actually like on the field, not even as a starter, just a backup. But just like he doesn't want to make like a spectacle about like, hey, I made it back for one play. He's more of like a I made it back for the long haul, so don't make
Yeah.
like just like a thing type thing.
Right.
But I mean, yeah, I would go for if I just saw him come on the field for even like a quick slant, just get the ball to your hands really quick. I mean, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. It's just the only thing is you just don't want. You just
Yeah.
can't have that happen again, dude.
Yeah.
I don't even want to risk it, and that's the whole thing. But the thing is, look, it's Alex, and it's up to him. And I know that him being the competitor that he is, and look, on a real scale, you know, the type of person that it has to take for Alex to be succeeded in San Francisco by Kaepernick, having that whole kind of, let's just say it was kind of embarrassing with kind of being, you know, taken down a peg, if you will. And then the same happening in Kansas City. You have to give credit to the fact because, like, you know, that takes a special person. A lot of people would be bitter, probably be really angry at the world. And the fact that he still has that kind of character and that, I don't know, the motivation during all this is kind of crazy in my eyes because a lot of people would be defeated.
Yeah, I mean, if you go back and listen to Colin Kaepernick's comments back then when he took over as a starter, he said, "I wouldn't be here without Alex Smith. He taught me everything I know. I watched him in the locker room, blah blah blah, stuff like that." And then obviously you heard the same stuff with Patrick Mahomes. So, and then obviously Dwayne Haskins too as well. He just hasn't had the success as the other two guys yet. But yeah, like you said, I just think he'd be a great vital piece of this organization going forward, whether it's in the locker room as a player or in the front office as a front office guy, or even like I said, as an offensive assistant on the coaching staff.
Yeah, you got anything else, Reed?
No, I'm good.
You
No, I'm
good,
just
all right.
kidding. Yeah, no. I would love to see Alex. That would just be such an incredible story if he could work his way back onto the field somehow. That in itself would just be amazing to see him get cleared to resume football activity and contact, and that would, I think it would be amazing. But yeah, I would love to see him eventually take over somewhere within the organization.
Right. All right, so let's move on to the top 5 sports movies of all time for all of us. And I'll let Reed start off with his number 5. And let's hear Reed, and then we'll go to Hall after that.
To be completely honest with you, I don't have them in any particular order, so
Okay,
I'm just gonna name them.
just make them.
So,
make your
here we
order
go.
in your head right now.
All right,
No,
so
just
I'm
give
gonna
me
go
number
with
5. Just number 5.
number 5. I'm gonna go with the newest Longest Yard, the one with Adam Sandler. That was a fantastic movie, in my opinion. I love it. It was one of the few movies from Adam Sandler that's actually been funny in the last 20 years. Having all those wrestlers on it, like Stone Cold, Kevin Nash was hilarious in it when he took the estrogen pills, and then Nelly being able to run the ball. They were like, look at that little Megat run. Chris Berman on the announce crew. It was
Right.
good. You know, they did a good job when they came out, and Paul Cruz threw the ball right at the ref's nuts.
Yeah.
It told him to call a fair game. I like that.
Tracy Morgan deserved an Oscar.
Tracy,
for that
yes,
movie.
yes. Tracy Morgan was hilarious in that. Of course, one of the greatest comedians of all time is in it. Joey Diaz.
Okay, back
playing,
freckle.
Yeah, playing the big fat guy who's running and can't run. Joey Diaz is one of the goats of stand-up comedy, and it's a fantastic movie. Of course, I like the original too, but I'm gonna go with the newest one right there at number 5.
All right. So then, Hall, what's your number 5? Top 5 sports movie. Number 5.
I'd probably go with Friday Night Lights, just because
Basic.
played high school. Yeah, I know, basic as shit.
You're a basic white girl.
I mean, I feel like basic white girls. That's pretty true. Yeah, but I mean, I played high school football, and like that was just one of the things that you're always gonna remember. And it's just one of those movies where like, if I'm playing video games, I do something nice. I'm like, oh, if you want to win, let booby spin. It's like one of my all time. So yeah, that's number 5 for me. One thing that kind of made me like weird and like mad about the movie is, I don't know, it's kind of weird, is the quarterback in the movie. He said like 10 words like the whole movie. It was like weird.
Yeah, that was such a weird part of that whole movie, wasn't it?
Yeah, like I was like, I mean, I think it's like based off like a true story or something like that. So like,
Yeah.
I'm like, did the quarterback, was he like a mute in real life, or what was going on there?
It probably was. I like that Friday Night Lights. I actually don't have that on my list at all. My number 5 sports movie of all time, I'm going with Happy Gilmore. Adam Sandler being able to get a whole generation of kids my age thinking that golf is fun. and making it a lot of fun and bringing cursing to the atmosphere. Happy Gilmore, by the end of that movie, you're getting pumped up that he's sinking putts and stuff. It's one of the greatest movies of all time, simply put, and I think it deserved to be on this list at number 5. So Reed, at number 4, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the movie that is very quotable. It's debatable how much this movie's actually a sports movie, but I'm gonna go with Varsity Blues. Varsity Blues, you know, you got Mox the Fox. You know, it's a fantastic movie. It's got a lot of drama, of course.
Fucking 10.
Yeah, Billy Bob, Billy Joe, Billy whatever his name is. Man,
Tweeter was
hilarious. Tweeter was hilarious. It's a good movie with some good drama and some fantastic humor in it, and I loved it. I love Varsity Blues. I can watch that anytime it's on.
It's I don't want your life.
Yeah, that's what I should have mentioned. Yeah, that is my favorite quote from any movie ever. But I don't want your life. And by the way, you can go on YouTube and you can watch a 10-hour loop of him giving that scene, just saying, "But I don't want your life" for 10 hours. So I recommend watching it.
Oh, absolutely, dude. Varsity Blues, such a good movie. The fact that they went to the strip joint before a game, the day before the game, that was hilarious. I just keep seeing her boobies bounce in front of my face.
Charles, can I go prompt you?
Can I go prom with you? All right, Hall, who do you got at number 4?
It's funny because I actually have Varsity Blues at number 4. Also.
There you go.
It's another one of those movies. I in my everyday life, I still just quote the movie to this day. I mean,
yeah.
Again, it's another high school football movie that I was just like,
that's how you know we're all degenerates.
Yeah, like I want to be a tweeter when I get to high school football, man.
Right.
Just partying, just like banging bitches, like. So yeah, man. Like Varsity Blues was like one of those movies that, like Reed said, it was on TV. I'm gonna stop and watch it no matter what.
And anytime you ever hear of anybody getting a cat skin now, I'm always like, "Oh man, they scanned your cat. They scanned your cat."
It's so true.
What a classic character.
My number 4 is not as funny. I think it's The Sandlot. Going back to when you were kids, man.
Should have had that one on.
You got to go with The Sandlot at number 4. Just
the
because
nostalgia.
Yes, just because putting on those chucks and running away from the big bad dog, the Beast. One of the best movies ever. And then seeing Babe Ruth come to the closet and talk to him. You have to, like, that just brings back that choking moment. You know, you're just like, oh, Babe Ruth. You know, The Sandlot, number 4 for me. So number 3, Reed, who do you got?
I'm going to go with one that has some fantastic performances in it. I'm going to go with Any Given Sunday.
Ooh.
You talk about Al Pacino and Jamie Foxx. Those guys have just given fantastic acting performances, especially Al Pacino. Al Pacino, he's always good, but he crushed it in this movie. And it's a very good, dramatic football movie, and it's got some good football film in it as well.
Yeah, that's actually not a bad one at all. And one of the greatest quotes ever, right? Football is a game of inches.
Right.
And it's so true. What a scene in there, a guy's eye got knocked out of the socket.
Yeah.
And I think it was to go to like the playoffs or something like that game.
Here, I honestly thought to myself, you know, I was like, dude, do you think LT was crazier in that movie or in real life? You know, on the football field.
Yeah.
I think he portrayed himself in the movie.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, he's probably crazier in real life, to be honest. Oh, shoot. So, Hall, who do you have at 3?
I'm actually going to switch it up from something that's not on my list because I actually just popped into my head. I don't know if I put it at number 3, but it was one of those movies when I was a little kid. I had it on VHS. I played it all the time. I watched it all the time. Baseball is actually like my number 1 sport growing up. Like as a little kid, I started off playing T-ball, played all up until high school. Should have kept playing. But I'm going to go with Angels on the Outfield.
Ooh, good one.
Yeah, that was my movie back in the day. Like I said, I think who's Danny Glover was one of the angels in that movie. Yeah, always watching, like, just a classic movie. And like you said, one of those baseball movies that's just like near and dear to my heart.
Yeah. And look, this next one that I have is probably everyone's going to be shaking their head and say, huh? But I absolutely love it, and that is The Replacements with Keanu Reeves as the quarterback. It was recorded here at M&T Bank Stadium up in Maryland, in Baltimore. It's
based on the Redskins.
It's based on the Redskins and the strike season, so that's another reason why I like it so much, and also because my grandmother is deaf. My mom is a sign language interpreter, and they had the Gallaudet tight end there, and I've been to Gallaudet before, so it's one of my favorite movies, and it has one of my favorite quotes in it about quicksand, because I've been to Redskins games multiple times. I was there for the Monday Night Massacre. I was there for when RG3 got injured. I've been there for some really, really tough times. And the quote that Keanu Reeves says about fear, and he talks about quicksand, where you think everything's going fine, you think everything's going okay, and all of a sudden one thing happens, and then another thing happens, and then another, and then another, and then the next thing you know, you're in over your head, like quicksand. And that's how it was at Monday Night Massacre against Philly. It's so true. And so it really stuck with me. So I had to have the replacements there at number 3. I know we lost Hall. We'll get him back here in a second. So Reed, who's your? Let's go with your number 2.
So too, real quick, before I give this, I got to give an honorable mention because it's one that I had on here, but I replaced it to the movie The Program. Have you ever seen The Program?
Is that the college one?
Yeah, it's a college.
Is it like it's based on Florida State,
steroids
right?
And yeah, it's a very good one. So I'm gonna give that an honorable mention. I had that on the list, but I had to knock it out because when you said Sandlot, it reminded me of another movie from when we were younger. I'm gonna go with Little Giants. Little Giants. With the annexation of Puerto Rico, you had ice spots. It was a fantastic movie from when we were younger, and that's a movie that's still just one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah, and especially when it makes the Cowboys look like losers in the end. It's always a movie that you love. I'm going to throw you for a loop here. I'm not sure if you've ever seen this movie, but I know a lot of people are probably going to make fun of me, but The Greatest Game Ever Played, depicting the golf with Shia LaBeouf based on a true story.
I never saw it. I know what it is.
Yeah, about a common boy who was not, because at the time, golf was considered a gentleman's game, so only rich men got to play. Sam comes in as a helper on the golf course and finds his way on and kicking everyone's ass, ends up beating his hero for the title. Obviously, in real life, it didn't go down like in the dramatics, but I'm telling you, if you haven't watched it yet, go watch this movie. You are absolutely going to love it. You're going to be gripped the entire time. It is very well done.
Right.
What is your number 1, dude?
So number 1, I'm going to go with a movie that's going to kind of take everybody by surprise. This is one of my most watchable movies of all time. Is the sport real? No, but I'm going to go with Basketball. Basketball from the creators of South Park.
Butler's going to love you for that. Butler wants to kiss you right now.
I hope so. That is one of my all-time favorite movies. That is one of the most underrated movies of all time. It is hilarious. It is quotable. And that was when South Park had first came out. That was when Trey Parker and Matt Stone weren't necessarily nationally known yet. People didn't realize how funny they were. And those are two of the most genius human beings in terms of, you think about South Park, this movie. They're comedic geniuses. The fact that they can keep up with the times with South Park is amazing. And then on top of that, basketball. Everybody, as soon as baseball came out, everybody wanted to try to play it. We all gave it a go at one point. That's one of my all-time favorite movies, and I will always watch Basketball.
Yeah, and that was a great one. But I'm sure this was going to be Hall's number 1, and it's going to be my number 1. I think it's probably everyone's number 1, and that is Remembering the Titans at number 1. Being such a great movie altogether. Gary Lanier at the end of that, Chenier, whatever his Brutier, whatever the hell his name is, Brutier. At the end, getting that car crash, it really picks you apart there. Such a great movie, probably the best movie of all time. I know Rudy's supposed to be in there, and stuff like that.
Right. Field of Dreams is another great one.
Right.
There's a lot of good sports movies, but I would agree that's probably the best sports movie of all time. But for me, Basketball is my personal favorite.
Right. Now, you were talking about Hogs Haven, a recent article that came out. I wanted to hear you talk about that. I haven't heard 100% what you were referring to earlier.
There's a article that came out that was written about the possibility of moving Brandon Sheriff to right tackle. And Morgan Moses, of course, Morgan Moses has kind of underperformed over the last few years. He's been one of the most penalized right tackles in all of football. And their thought was, we have pretty good depth on the interior offensive line. We got a good amount of guards/centers that we think can play at a high level. And that switching Brandon Sheriff to right tackle would kind of knock out 2 birds with one stone. You'd get high production at right tackle. Sheriff, of course, was a tackle in college. That's what he was brought in here to do. So it kind of makes sense. You understand the thought about it. But my problem with it is if Brandon Sheriff was beat at right tackle by Morgan Moses. Of course, that was his rookie year. That was when he first came in. He kind of underperformed, and Morgan Moses was playing very good. Coaching staff said, well, why don't we just kick Sheriff inside? He's got short arms. it'll be better for him to be a guard at this point. So he played guard. He's been playing at a Pro Bowl level ever since. So I don't like the idea just because what if Sheriff doesn't excel at right tackle, and then all of a sudden you have two holes. All of a sudden you kind of have a hole at right guard. You're not as strong there, and your right tackle is the same or worse.
Whoa.
So I don't necessarily understand.
What happened?
I don't know. I understand the thinking behind it, and I love Sheriff, and I do think that he could possibly be a good tackle. I just think at this point, you almost got to let Cornelius Lucas, who's played right tackle basically his entire career, kind of battle it out with Morgan Moses or somebody on the left side. And if they beat him out, there you go. And you got somebody next to Sheriff who still have that Pro Bowl guard.
Yeah, that was my whole question, because I was under the belief that Cornelius Lucas had started at left tackle the last 4 games for Chicago. So was I wrong? It was right tackle that he had started?
He started at right. He was their swing tackle, but he had been starting at right tackle. But he's played right tackle almost his entire career. And that was another thing, though, is that people were thinking maybe the misconception was that we had a hole at left tackle. So they thought that we brought in Cornelius Lucas to start at left tackle. Obviously, that's what everybody would think. But maybe, I mean, judging by Rivera's comments about everybody has to fight for their spot, everybody has to fight for start, and Sheriff kind of being underperforming over the last few years, maybe he's in danger. Maybe they brought in Cornelius Lucas, and they were thinking that they could get somebody in the draft who could possibly come in at left tackle, or they like Jerron Christian. So who knows what's going to happen, but I do not like the idea of moving Sheriff to tackle.
Dukes, I'll tell you what, I've been following Hogs Haven for a while on Twitter, and I'll tell you what, last season I noticed it more and more, but he was really going hard after Morgan, and he would be posting, clips, film clips of Morgan being lazy and stuff that we knew. But the fact being is it's just kind of weird to me. It's just on this whole quest to get Morgan Moses out of there. I just don't think the Redskins right now are in a position to be relieving starting linemen. I don't think they're good enough at this moment. Now, if you're telling me they're thinking about an experiment of kicking Brandon Sheriff out to right tackle and moving Moses into guard, I'll listen. Because Moses at times can be beat by speed rushers on the outside easily because he is slow. Yeah. So it makes sense to kick him into guard, and he has long arms, so it'd be really good there. And he could be out in space. That would make sense to me. What about you, Hall?
Yeah, that would make sense to me. Like you said before, they're not really in a position, not even just like talent-wise, depth-wise, or anything-wise. I'm like downstairs. I can't. Okay. That's where the charger's at.
No, my bad.
Actually, never mind. No one's watching TV. I don't know where the remote's at. All right. Well,
go turn off your TV. We'll hold it for now.
Can you turn the TV off or mute it really quick? Thank you. What was it saying? All right. Yeah. So that would be a good. We're not really in a position to be, like you said, relieving linemen of their starting positions, talent-wise, depth-wise, anything like that. But I know they drafted a couple younger guys in like the later round from San Diego State, Samuels.
Yeah, Keith Ishmael.
And, Keith Ishmael, yeah. And so maybe they're thinking like, hey, maybe he's gonna come in and like maybe compete for a starting spot at guard, and you push Sheriff out the tackle, or like you said, vice versa, move him into guard and let him fight for a spot. Or they're just saying, hey, we got guys that are positionless and can play multiple positions. So Moses, we're going to give you a year or two.
Yeah, the one thing that's weird for me is sitting here wondering with the Redskins, especially with tackle, because in Carolina, it almost seemed like they never had their tackle spot solidified. They always had to find somebody to come in and play left tackle for them. And that's what worries me, because with the Redskins past, we've always been good with tackle. And now all of a sudden, it kind of seems like we have an issue, and I'm worried about that problem moving north from Carolina up to Washington now.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree. Carolina, at least in Ron Rivera's era, they struggled at tackles.
You see Hall's picture?
Yeah. they struggled finding a tackle, and it was tough for them. But I do think that they have a plan in place with what they want to do at the tackle positions, and as long as Morgan Moses understands that he has to play to keep his starting spot, I'm okay with that. Like I've said, I've been very frustrated with him over the last few years. His first year starting, which was his second year in the league, he played very well. Other than that, he's kind of been a liability at times. But there's not many good right tackles in the NFL. So Moses, I would say, is a middle of the road type starter. And he's got a lot to work on, of course, but as long as he knows that he has to put in the work and he has to play, then I think he will be fine. And you don't want holes at both tackle spots, because right now we don't know how left tackle is going to be. We don't know how that position is going to pan out. So I think that having two holes at both tackle spots would be hard for Dwayne to really develop, and we wouldn't really be able to see what Dwayne can do.
Yeah, and now looking back at the offseason that Ron Rivera had, you can't sit here and say that they didn't bulk up offensive line, because they did. Right. Maybe they didn't bulk up in very flashy ways, but they were able to add a lot of depth to this offensive line when you think about it. Cornelius Lucas, Wes Martin, Ross Piersbacher, Keith Ishmael now. Did I already say Cornelius Lucas?
No, but there you go. I don't
Cornelius
think so.
Lucas there as well. And then we're talking about Sadiq Charles there at left tackle as well. There's so many guys that they added. David Schweitzer there. There's so many guys that were added. So the Redskins are going to be good. I think regardless. I think the biggest problem, though, is left tackle. The tackle spot, the Twin Towers, that's where the issue is. And they have to get that fixed. And we got to trust Ron Rivera, babe. That's all we can do.
Yeah, right. I completely agree. You just got to trust in the process right now. We're not really in a position to be moving pieces around and seeing what we got at other places. We just kind of got to sit back and just let them do their thing, and they'll put the best players on the field.
Right. And what makes me feel better is thinking that Scott Turner's coming in here saying, we're not expecting Dwayne to do 7-step drop backs 20 times a game. We're going to be using a lot of play action. There's going to be a lot of quick stuff. So it's not going to be that crazy of a need to get that left tackle spot based on what offense they're going to run. Look, you obviously need a good left tackle to be able to compete in this league, but there's ways to offset that. And
right.
And hopefully Logan Thomas and company are going to be able to add to that. And Scott Turner, look, with all the movement that he does pre-snap, I mean, it does really help Dwayne. And hopefully it takes a lot of weight off of the offensive line as well, because the defense is not going to be able to pinpoint exactly what's happening. I think that's the biggest takeaway I got from Scott Turner's offense.
Yeah. It's like we've said, Scott Turner seems to be very good at playing to his players' strengths and utilizing his players and their versatility. And that's when you think of Antonio Gibson, J.D. McKissick, those guys are people who can play multiple positions, and even Isaiah Wright. Yeah. And I think that's something that you got to look for, and that's very good to have. And he's a perfect guy to kind of utilize their abilities.
Dude, I'm telling you, Bo, my buddy Bo, I would get into arguments with him. We both play football. We play on the same team. We get in arguments all the time because I would say, I love versatility. Give me versatility all day long. And he used to yell at me and say, no, dude, that just means you're a jack of nothing, and give me somebody that's really good at one thing. I love this because now he has to eat his words. And say, look, Ron Rivera agrees with me, Bo. What are you going to say about that?
Poor Bo.
Yeah, poor Bo. Versatility. I tell you, Bill Belichick is all about it, and it's something that I truly do believe in, and I'm glad that Ron Rivera is bringing that aspect here. So let me ask you, Reed, before we head out for today, I wanted to ask you in particular. Last week we went into and we talked about a couple of defensive guys that we thought were going to take the next step under Ron Rivera and company. So I wanted to ask you how you think the cornerback position is going to be looking week 1 against Philly. Who do you think is going to be the number 1 if you consider it? And then who's the slot and the opposite side corners? And then who is the nickel dime sub package?
I think that it really just depends on the offensive formation. I think that you would consider Kendall Fuller our number 1. However, I do think on obvious passing downs and depending on how the offense is lined up, you're going to see him in the slot a majority of the time as the nickelback, because that's kind of where he excels. That's where he's played his best ball in the past. And then I think that Fabian Moreau is going to end up grasping one of those outside jobs, as well as Ronald Darby. And then they kind of have a good problem too, because Jimmy Moreland is somebody else who can come in on dimes, or if there's an injury, and he could excel. So I really like where they're at. So I would say Kendall Fuller will end up being the number 1, and he will be on the outside a good amount. But as soon as there is that slot receiver, there's somebody that's lined up inside, I think then you're going to see Kendall Fuller kind of side and side. We're going to bring in somebody else to play on the outside, which I would imagine would be Ronald Darby and Fabian Moreau. But who knows, maybe Jimmy Moreland takes a huge step this year. Maybe Jimmy Moreland's the guy who kind of steps up and he's going to be he's going to be playing on the outside. You never know. So I think that having about a 4 deep rotation that you trust is a good thing to have.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. And the cool thing about Jimmy Moreland is, with his body frame and his height, kind of being a thinner guy, he can play both positions well.
Right.
And that is
Exactly.
in the slot, playing nickel or dime, or playing the outside. So I think with this Redskins defense, they're going to have the ability to have a lot of hybrid, a lot of flexibility with their packages and their personnel. And being with Sean Davis as the free safety, him playing being a former corner, him being able to come inside the box, playing the nickel or dime corner in that position, playing the tight end or the slot wide receiver, and then allowing Landon Collins to play free safety, or having Sean Davis fall back to free safety and having Landon Collins come into the box. I think this defense is really shaped out to do well, and I think you're right. Jimmy Moreland, I would imagine, has the starting job, because Ronald Darby has not been able to stay healthy. It's been a long time since he's been good. He's got to prove himself first. So I think Jimmy Moreland has that starting slot job, because if you had to tell Jimmy Moreland, either go learn be good at slot, or you're not going to have a job or a starting job, I think he's going to take the slot.
Right. Yeah, I would love to see that. I would hope that Jimmy Moreland can really take a huge step this year. I know he's a fan favorite. A lot of people loved him coming out. And Ronald Darby is somebody who has had success in the past. But when he was with Buffalo his first 2 years, he played very well. A lot of people thought that he was going to be one of the young up and coming cornerbacks, and then he kind of fell off a little bit. Of course, when he was in Philly, he didn't live up to expectations. But he's somebody who has the athletic ability. If you put this fantastic D line in front of him, maybe he can kind of get some of that old fire back, and maybe he can play like he did when he was in his early years in Buffalo. But you're right, you can't trust him right now. He's still somebody who's been extremely inconsistent. He's been injury prone, and I would love for Jimmy Moreland to kind of take over and start. And I really, like I said last time we did this, I really think Fabian Moreau is going to take a big step this year.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. Now, with Ronald Darby, it begs the question, did he benefit from a good defense like Josh Norman did? In Carolina, coming over, going to Philly. It almost feels like DBs that go to Philly almost go there to die. I hate to say that.
Yeah,
I don't
mean the awesome one.
Right, I don't mean to say the D word, but you know what I mean. Like,
sorry, Darius Slay.
Right. I'm just saying. It just kind of makes sense. Where with him, with Darby, I'm keeping him at arm's length. I'm keeping him almost as a luxury. Instead of weighing on him and leaning on him as a starter, I think that is a great opportunity, because sky's the limit for him at that point. Especially with Redskins and free agents here, we've had too many times, or we have free agents come in here and our expectations are here, where really our expectations should be here. And that's how it is with me with Darby. I'm going to keep him down here. If he excels above that, fantastic. If not, it's not like we gave him a whole bunch of money.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. If he can come in and play awesome, great. But if not, you can't really expect that based off of what we've seen, especially with him being in the division and getting torched for the last few years. You can't expect that, but he is somebody. He's a veteran. He still has a lot of natural talent. He was very athletic coming out at the combine. So he's still somebody who you can put on there and you can trust at times. Will he win the starting spot? I don't know. I would hope that he would, but at the same time, I'm really pulling for Jimmy Moreland to kind of overtake that spot on the outside and become what we all think that he can.
Yeah, he's a ball hawk. 19 interceptions over his career at JMU. He absolutely ridiculous cornerback, and that can transition to NFL. And if he, just like he said on his Twitter, a lot of NFL athletes, the way you progress in this league is the mental game, learning the game, being a student of the game. And I think Jimmy Moreland's taking it seriously, and he has that ability to take the next step. Right,
and that's a great mindset to have, because that is probably the most true thing I've ever read a professional athlete say. Every single person in the NFL is talented. Everybody's athletic for their positions. That's why they're in the NFL. It's all about the work that you put in. It's all about the mental aspect. And if you can get that down, you'll be successful. If you trust your coaches, you trust your teammates, and you just work on your job, you will be successful as long as you master your craft.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's wrap this up, today's show, with this last talk. This is it, Reed, and then we'll go for the night, I promise. Let's talk first round fantasy picks right now. So let's just go through 12 picks that let's just discuss what the first round would be if it was played today. because there's major shakeups happening in the NFL as we speak that are going to change a lot of things. Because I think an argument needs to be made about Mike Evans possibly overtaking DeAndre Hopkins. But look, that's a question for another day. But let's get into it right now. The number one overall pick, I think we're both going to agree, it should be Christian McCaffrey off break.
Right. Yeah. Just what he offers is just his skill set's unlike any other. He plays at such a high level, being able to catch the ball out of the backfield, line up wherever, and he's a good running back. Just in general, if all he had to do was run the ball, he would still be successful. But the fact that he is far and away the biggest threat on that offense, I think is huge. And I think Matt Rule and co is going to have to lean on him pretty hard out there in Carolina.
Now, I do think that Zeke should be up there and close to it because given with Dak Prescott, I think Jerry Jones is going to try to prove a point this year and try to take the ball out of Dak's hands as much as he can. And they're going to run the ball down everyone's throats because they just gave Zeke a whole bunch of money. I think Zeke should be the number 2 overall pick. That would make a lot of sense in my eyes.
Yeah. I mean, of course, Zeke has done nothing but produce his entire career, and he's put up really some outstanding numbers, and he's somebody that you really trust. But one person that I think people are still forgetting about, and somebody who I think will kind of add a sophomore slump will be better, Saquon Barkley. Saquon is he's the most talented running back in the NFL in terms of the way that he runs the ball. Like, we haven't seen a talent like him pretty much. It's Barry Sanders. He's big, he's strong, he's fast. He's got excellent vision. He can catch the ball. And I think that them improving the offensive line now, having Andrew Thomas there, who that should solidify, and a passing game that teams may actually end up being scared of. I mean, I'd hate to say it, but Daniel Jones he did very well last year. Maybe the stats were inflated a little bit, but he's somebody who could take a pretty big jump in year 2. And I really think Saquon's going to come back hard with a vengeance, and he's really going to tear it up. I love Saquon and Zeke. I mean, I think that those top 3 running backs, you can expect a lot from all 3 of them.
Yeah, the only problem is that all 3 of those running backs have the same kind of circumstances following them, and that is all 3 have new head coaches. You don't know how those offenses are going to really continue to shape out. But in Jerry's world, he calls the shots. And I wouldn't trust Mike McCarthy having anything to do with it. Now, the number 4, I think we would both agree it has to be Dalvin Cook. Had an absolutely blowout year last year. Really showed everyone why he was a great pick by the Vikings, and he's going to continue that stretch this year, especially with Stephon Diggs leaving. So they're going to lean on the run a little bit more.
Yeah. If Dalvin Cook can stay healthy, if he can play, like he did last year, then of course 100%. Dalvin Cook is extremely talented. That offense would love to be able to lean on him like they did. I love Dalvin Cook. Like I said, as long as he can stay healthy, he should be fine. And there's another guy though that I think it really kind of depends. I've seen some people who say that they don't think that this guy should be in the top 10. Some people who think that this guy should be in the top 3. And it's just based off of what he did at the end of last year. Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's so hard to tackle. He wants to get that big contract. And he is, as he goes, the Titans offense go. He makes Ryan Tannehill's job easier. They lost Jack Conklin, but then they signed a big old boy in Isaiah. They drafted a big old boy in Isaiah Wilson to play right tackle. I think that offense is going to rely heavily on Derrick Henry, and he needs to prove himself to get a big fat contract because the life of a running back is not that long in the NFL. This could be his final big contract. So I think that they're going to lean on him a lot. It's just interesting to see how people kind of fluctuate on him. Some people have him top 10, some people have him top 5, some people don't even have him in the top 12. So it's interesting. I don't know how he's going to do or what to expect, but I would imagine that he's somebody who can come in and you can rely on him as your running back 1.
Yeah, I wouldn't have him in the top 5. I know
neither I was just throwing it.
I got you. I'm just kind of disrespectful of Derrick Henry because I truly believe that it's the offensive line that makes everything work there in Tennessee. You have to imagine if the offensive line is not getting the holes open for Derrick. It's not like Derrick Henry is creating holes and running lanes for himself. He's a big dude that runs people over, but if you don't give him that momentum, he's not going to be able to do that. He's going to be stopped in his tracks. So I think the offensive line is what works there. That's what gets the running game going, and that's what allows the play action to develop and allows Ryan Tannehill's job to be very easy. That being said, I still think he's a top 10 pick in the first round, without a doubt. Now, ESPN here at 5, it has Michael Thomas over Alvin Kamara, which I don't really believe because with Drew Brees at the end of last season, you saw his arm strength kind of go out. And I think without Mark Ingram again for the second year, I think this team is going to heavily weigh on Alvin Kamara in PPR formats. I think that Alvin Kamara should be ahead of Michael Thomas, and I think Michael Thomas should be dropped down a little bit. What about you?
I would roll with Michael Thomas there. Alvin Kamara, of course, we know his skill set. We know how good he can be. We know how important he is in that offense. And you're right, without Mark Ingram in year two, I think that he should be a bigger focal point. But he's also hasn't really produced as much as a rusher as people thought that he would over the last couple of years. And,
that's why I think he'll have a bounce back this year. Like they're going to weigh
I
on
could
him.
100% imagine it. And but I do also think that with the weapons that were added on the Saints, getting in Emmanuel Sanders to kind of roll the coverages away from Michael Thomas, who should only be getting better. He's somebody who can have a similar year to the incredible year that he did last year. He's going to for sure be the number one target in that offense. He's one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, and that is an offense that does like to throw the ball. You are right about Drew Brees. Eventually, the age is going to catch up to him. It just hasn't necessarily happened. Like we haven't seen it yet. We've seen his numbers drop a little bit, but he's still getting the ball to Michael Thomas. He's still producing. I like Michael Thomas as my number one fantasy wide receiver.
Now, it has Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas back to back right there. We don't need to go any further. Now, number 7, they have Devontae Adams, which I actually do. I had Devontae Adams last year in the first round. He helped me win a super fantasy championship. I love you, Devontae. I don't think he should be worth in the first round this year. I think there is going to be significant repercussions from the Jordan Love draft pick. I think this Aaron Rodgers is a type of guy that is a petty dude that lets things get to him. He's not going to try as hard. I really do believe that. And I love Devontae Adams, but I'd be more comfortable with him as a second round pick. If he falls to me in the second round, I'm ecstatic about it. But I'm not in love with it at 7.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. I do love Devontae Adams. But
I'd rather go with DeAndre Hopkins there, personally.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I don't think that he would be my second. I don't think that he should be the second wide receiver. I understand they didn't add any other weapons. He does need to get the ball, and I know Rodgers is getting a lot of slack, but from what I've been hearing, it's almost like the exact opposite. Like people are saying that Aaron Rodgers is using this as motivation right now to show you guys, look, I can still play this game. And you're right, he is petty, so I could see him doing that and then being like, all right, peace after 2 years.
Yeah.
Going and signing somewhere else and sticking them with Jordan Love. And I think Aaron Rodgers will actually do that. I think he will play some of the best football he's played in the last 2-3 years. And Devontae Adams is the only really reliable target right now. So I get it. I understand it. But I think you're right. I don't think that I would put Devontae Adams as the second best wide receiver. I'd probably go with DeAndre Hopkins in that Cardinals offense.
Yeah, absolutely. Now at number 8, they have Derrick Henry, which we already had already discussed and talked about. But then Tyreek Hill right behind that. And that's what has me scratching my head. I think this is the year of Tyreek Hill's downfall. I would not go with Tyreek Hill in the first round. I know I've been saying this for every year, but I just stay away from him. And I think this is the year. If anything's going to happen to him, it's now.
Right. There's been questions off the field of him. Of course, last year we all know what ended up happening with him. But one thing about Tyreek Hill and that Chiefs offense is Pat Mahomes was talking about how he didn't really understand how to actually read a defense until the halfway point of last year. Wow. So that him being able to think about what he was doing, not being able to read a defense, Jesus. And now that he can, I think that could only benefit Tyreek Hill. But at the same time, I think that you're right. I just don't think that he has. I know that he's got fantastic speed and he's a great deep threat, but is he the guy who is he better than a DeAndre Hopkins or a Devontae Adams or Michael Thomas, who you can get the ball to and get first downs consistently and racks up these catches and he's going to get these yards every game? I just don't. I know that offense is incredible, but I am not sure that I would trust him to be one of the top 3 wide receivers.
Right. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I don't believe so. I think DeAndre Hopkins needs to be way up farther on this list. They have him listed at 10.
Yeah, they have so many weapons in that Kansas City offense, and they have a lot of weapons in Arizona right now too. But I think DeAndre Hopkins' talent is just so special. You got a Larry Fitzgerald who seems to be ageless, but he is declining a little bit. You got Christian Kirk, who there's some rumors that he's on the trading block right now, but I think
he should be.
With the way that Cliff Kingsbury offense likes to sling the ball around and having in my opinion, the best wide receiver in the NFL, DeAndre Hopkins, I think that it's only going to benefit him. I think that he is pissed off about getting traded from the Texans because I think that he thinks that meant that they don't believe in him and that he can be replaced. And I think he's going to try to go out there and show them that you can't replace me. You can't. I'm just that good.
Yeah.
And I expect Kyler Murray to take a huge step forward this year. In year 2, he's somebody who I think could be a dark horse MVP type candidate, possibly. And I think that his go-to guy is going to be DeAndre Hopkins. And like I said, Cliff Kingsbury's offense loves throwing the ball. They love using 4 wide. They love using 5 wide at times. They are an offense that is very exciting and that loves to throw the ball. And Kyler in year 2 is going to throw the ball a lot.
Yeah, and speaking of wide receivers, one I want to stick with is Julio. They have him listed at 13. I want to talk about it real quick. With the leaving of Devontae Freeman in free agency, you have to imagine, what are we going to see out of this Atlanta Falcons offense? Is Julio even going to be worth a second rounder?
Yeah, I'd still, Julio is one of the most naturally gifted wide receivers of all time. I think that, of course, they got rid of Devontae Freeman, but they brought in Todd Gurley. But Gurley is not the same Todd Gurley that he was 3 years ago.
Right.
I mean, that's just known. I mean, he's not the same guy. He has degenerative knee problems. I don't think he can be relied. I think he wants to be because he's just that kind of alpha guy. But I still think so good. He's going to get his catches. He's going to get his targets, and I think he's going to take that as a slight against him as well.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And look, who was it that was telling you guys before the season last year, do not draft Todd Gurley in the first round. Do not do it. Do not do it. He is on the back end of his career, and thankfully that did come into fruition. But look, adding to Atlanta Falcons offense, it's going to be really weird to see how they all move together, because without Austin Hooper, it begs the question where all the targets are going to go to. So is this going to be the beginning of the end for Julio Jones being in a top fantasy target? It's weird to see that. Now, at the 12th pick overall, they have listed as Austin Eckler, right behind Nick Chubb at 11.
Wow,
I kind of like that. I kind of like that with Tyrod, because you think about it with Tyrod and Nick Chubb, and that's when Nick Chubb really blew up. Was that year with Tyrod, and then with Tyrod and whatever his name is up in Cleveland, Mayfield, Baker. That's when he blew up. So I could see it happening again with Austin Eckler. And look, that dude has been consistent, so I don't think why he wouldn't be worth a first rounder.
Right. I like Nick Chubb a lot at 11. I think you could even put Nick Chubb a little bit higher up with the improvements that they made on that offensive line, getting solidifying both tackle spots. Baker has no excuses now, and if
Aaron
Baker
Jones
struggle a little bit.
Aaron Jones should be up there too, man. To be honest,
right. But I think you're right about Eckler. Now that Eckler is going to be the man in LA, he, no matter what happens at the quarterback position, whether it ends up being Tyrod like it's supposed to be as of right now, or it ends up being Justin Herbert, say he wins, they're not gonna throw the ball 30 plus times a game.
Yeah.
Especially if Herbert's starting, they're going to need to hand the ball off to Eckler, and they're going to need to get the ball to him in space, which is something that they've done. So I think that Eckler is another person who's going to have a pretty big year, and he could surprise a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, we wanted to bring. We know it's a little bit early, but we wanted to bring some fantasy back to you guys. Bring some normalcy, because I don't care what Fauci says. We're having football this year, baby. We're having
football this year.
I don't care, Fauci. You must not watch football.
Yeah,
all right,
Goodell
everyone.
doesn't care.
No, he doesn't. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you catch up with us on Thursday. We'll be recording again, and we'll have a special guest for you guys, so make sure you tune in. You're not going to want to miss it.
Yes. Take it easy and keep it sleazy.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. I'm Kyle.
And I am Mike,
and
the other Mike.
Yeah, and Mike Hall says bye, too, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into the Burgundy Zone. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all over, iTunes Podcasts, YouTube. You can find us anywhere. Please like and share our page. Thank you so much, everybody. Redskins football. Woo!
Audio Jungle.